Nyumba yangu iliboneka kitambo. Sasa hii niko na miaka 3 kama niko nje.
We are witnessing the highest levels of water that has never been recorded ever since we started experiencing flooding.
Zimeenda, kuna wenye manguo zimeenda za watoto, vitabu. Sasa tulikuwa tunaomba serikali atusaidie.
For the residents of Osodo village in Karachuonyo constituency, Homa Bay County, the sound of heavy rain no longer brings hope for a good harvest. Instead, it now signals fear that the rising waters may once again wash away their homes, their food and their sense of security. After days of heavy rainfall across the region, River Mireu burst its banks on Saturday night, unleashing floods that forced hundreds of families to flee for safety. Tonight, more than 500 families are displaced, their homes submerged, their lives suddenly interrupted by nature's fury.
The total population affected here is 2,877. Sawa. We have the number of those who are displaced is 591 people who are displaced. I believe that is very clear. As at yesterday, our data was low, but you realize that between yesterday and this morning, that number increased because of the water flows. We have the elderly. In that number which is affected, we have 133 elderly, people who are elderly who are affected. We have the BWDs, we'll not forget the BWDs in our data, that is 32 in number.
Many of the affected families are now seeking shelter at Osodo Primary School and nearby churches, turning classrooms and prayer halls into temporary homes. For these residents, survival now depends on the kindness of well-wishers and emergency responders.
As you can see, this is just one of the homesteads that have been submerged. But we are talking about several other homesteads that have been submerged. Some have caved in because they are mud-walled houses, and because of the moisture buildup, it forces them to cave in. So we are talking about communities that don't have any other place to call a home. We are also talking about a community that doesn't have any farm production, and I believe that our communities are well known with what they can produce.
Hali ya maji inatupeleka vibaya sana. Sana. Kama mimi, nyumba yangu iliboneka kitambo. Sasa hii niko na miaka 3 kama niko nje. Hata sijakaa kwangu. Ninahangaika tu na watoto, wengine wako kwa kina soso. Hata uwezi kaa na watoto wote. Juu una uwezo. Una mali wa kukaa na watoto.
But beyond the visible destruction of homes and property, another silent crisis is unfolding inside these crowded rescue camps. Among the most vulnerable victims of the floods are expectant mothers, women who now face the daunting reality of preparing for childbirth in overcrowded and poorly equipped shelters.
The pregnant women are 33. Those are also the team which is vulnerable also. We consider them as vulnerable and the disadvantage in the society. The lactating mothers being 199.
Eunice Auma from Kobala village is among those displaced. She fled to Osodo Primary School after flood waters invaded her home. Her baby is expected in April, but instead of preparing for the motherhood in the comfort of her home, she now faces uncertainty inside a crowded rescue camp.
Kapo dadak ka kanya sa oloso maber to watema ka wanyadhi osiptal. Okay. We re-wealth center.
At antenatal clinics, expectant mothers are often advised to keep warm and maintain a healthy diet, but here those recommendations are nearly impossible to follow.
Kawadhi kidhi kikono ni mondo waumre net wacham chiemo mowinjore gi ngimawa. Chiemo to ok wayud maber nikech ka iluwore gi yuto wa masani. To wayudo chiemo matin. Mok donj gi ngimawa. Pi be wadak e pi. Kaka wanyalo timo onge. Koro watema kaka dhano.
Most displaced families lack blankets, proper bedding, and sufficient food supplies.
Tuko na wazazi wenye wazito, hatujui tunaweza tuwafanyia aje. Hii maji imeleta watoto wameanza kuhara, hatuoni tibu vizuri. Wengine wamehama, hatuwezi ishi shule na watoto wanasoma shuleni. Sasa tunaomba kama tunaweza pata mahali pa kuishi. Tena tunaomba serikali, tulilima, mashamba zote zimeenda, ng'ombe zimekufa, kuku zimeenda, kuna wenye manguo zimeenda za watoto, vitabu. Sasa tulikuwa tunaomba serikali atusaidie hapo.
Just a few kilometers away at Nyandho Seventh-day Adventist Church, another group of displaced residents are struggling to cope with similar hardships. Women and children sleep on wooden chairs as they wait for help. Eunice Nyaigo is expecting to give birth later this month. Like many mothers here, her biggest fear is not just the floods, but the health risks that come with staying in overcrowded camps.
Nyumba imejaa maji, imebidi tumehamia kanisani. Na huko kanisani bende venye niko hivi nafaa kujifungua. Sasa nitajifunguaje na maji pia iko kwa nyumba? Nitajifungua wapi? Niko karibu kujifungua. Mimi mwenyewe ni mgonjwa, hakuna hata kitu ya kukula. Daktari tukienda huko hospitalini, daktari wanatuambia tulale mahali imekauka, tuweke neti tukule. Tunaambiwa pia tunafaa kwa mahali kama liet. Sasa kama liet hakuna, tunalala huko kanisani, tumekuwa wengi. Mimi mwenyewe naumia. Serikali tunaomba utulete huku neti ya kulala, chakula, sana chakula. Unajua venye tuko hivi na mimi hivi inafaa tunakula na maji imeenda na chakula, tutafanya aje huku?
The floods not only displaced families, they have also destroyed livelihoods. Karachuonyo residents largely depend on farming and fishing to feed their families, but submerged farms and damaged homes now threaten their only sources of income.
Today, as we're speaking, we are talking about massive food insecurity because more than 800 acres of lands have been submerged. We are talking about more than 800 acres of grazing lands that have been submerged. And this has really exacerbated matters of wildlife-human conflict.
On Sunday, a multi-agency team led by the Kenya Red Cross conducted a fact-finding mission at Chowe Beach and surrounding villages to assess the scale of destruction. Omondi says, beyond food and shelter, many displaced families require psychological support to cope with the trauma caused by the sudden disaster.
Number of effects, a number of damages have been done here. Livelihood activities have been disrupted, especially fishing activities, trading activities. A number of animals, especially domestic animals, were also affected here. And right now people are living in distress in these churches, schools. And they have different needs. They have needs from food, non-food, medical services, and also psychosocial support as they are living in distress after the displacement.
Public health officials have also warned that overcrowded camps increase the risk of waterborne diseases such as cholera and typhoid. Residents are being urged to maintain hygiene standards despite the difficult conditions.
So we fear that the risk, because the population here is highly congested, so it's also growing with the time. They are now here for 2 days. We anticipate that there might be some outbreak of maybe diarrheal diseases due to maybe poor sanitation. So we are here to teach them and give them health education on how to mitigate these factors so that they cannot escalate to different levels.
The governor of Homa Bay County, Gladys Wanga, toured the flooded villages by boat to assess the damage. Navigating through submerged homes and flooded farms, the governor witnessed firsthand the devastation residents are facing. Later, she joined displaced families at Osodo Primary School and Nyadho Seventh-day Adventist Church, where the county government distributed emergency supplies, including food and bedding. Governor Wanga also urged residents living in flood-prone areas to temporarily relocate to higher ground to avoid further risks. At the same time, she promised to push for long-term solutions.
What I'd like to say is we have nearly 600 families displaced here, and we want to thank the churches around here because they have allowed the families to spend the nights in the churches. So we are making arrangements for how these families can be comfortable in these temporary accommodations with mattresses, and also supporting some building construction of some houses that have gone down. We have brought some food supply, nets, blankets and lighting and so on, and some of the infrastructure that has also been destroyed, including power poles and so on. We are also liaising with the relevant agencies to make sure that they are dealt with. This is a perennial issue here, but what we've seen is the dyking has been done up to a certain point, and that has helped with some families this year. And so we are going to pursue very, very hard the dyking in partnership with NYS and the other groups, so that the dyking has a 6-kilometer stretch that before the next rainy season, we want to make sure that that stretch is covered. Then we will now assess what damage would be left after that dike has been built all the way. And this is not just for this river, Miriu, there's River Kibwon, there's River Tende. So there are 3 key rivers here that is causing flooding in this Karachuonyo area that we are dealing with. So, and this is the place that is most prone to flooding. So if we can finish the diking here in Miriu, and do the diking in Tende, and do the diking for Kibwon, then we will be covering many families that are displaced year after year. The one in River Tende has also been done halfway. The one in this river has also been done halfway. And so we will be pursuing it very, very hard.
For now, life in the camps continues one day at a time. Families who once had homes, farms and routines must now rely on temporary shelters and emergency relief. And for expectant mothers like Eunice Auma and Eunice Nyaigo, the wait for safety and stability is even more urgent. Because as the waters continue to rise in Karachuonyo, so do the fears about what tomorrow may bring. As humanitarian agencies appeal for urgent support, the people of Karachuonyo remain hopeful that help will arrive before the floods claim even more homes and livelihoods. Reporting for Ziwa Media Network from Osodo Village, Homa Bay County, I'm Brian Odhiambo.